Hello, everybody. We are back again, and this time with Elvin Box, the Chair of London Construction Excellence. Yeah, very great to have him here. He arrived from London today in Sofia, yesterday in Sofia. And his first keynote is Covid-19. So what should we do now? And he will address this very big issue that we are facing already 7 months now in a very innovative way, as an innovation expert. Yeah, a very thought-provoking and trying to make us think about these disastrous events that happen around us in a very creative way. I give him the stage.
Yes.
Because I know that he will have a really tremendous, very, very good keynote, and I want to leave as much time as possible to him. Yeah, the floor is yours, Elvin.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I'll be as quick as I can, so that means effective, efficient, and be as entertaining as possible for you all. So, the question is, COVID-19, what should we do now? Okay, what should we do now? Very briefly, this is a bit of a quick schedule for you. We'll look at me briefly in terms of buildings. What's the problem? We'll have a look at that for you. Then unpacking the term problem. Then looking how we can resolve this problem. Like I say, I've got the solution, but at least something where we may be able to resolve it. Suggestions to move forward, and then a final bit to end it all. Some thought, maybe what we could do. Okay. As has been said, I am the chair of London Constructing Excellence. Sorry, just. Oh, good. Sorry, slight adaptation there. Yeah, I am the chair of London Constructing Excellence, which is a movement for change, organisational development consultant, and have a raging passion for creativity, innovation, and change. So hopefully this will come out for you all. Right, a little bit about me and buildings. A little bit about me and buildings. So this first building is Thorpe Combe Hospital. That's in East London, Walthamstow, East London. That's where I was born. I was born there. The next building is the beautiful town hall of Walthamstow. A beautiful building that even as a little boy walking past with my mum, I was in awe of and still am to this very day. This next building is actually my first school. This is Ridge Primary School in Sutton in Surrey. That's where my raging passion for the English language occurred. Next is the church right next door to Ridge Primary School, which was the Baptist Church in Cheam. And that's where I learned a lot about God, spiritualisation, and the world, really, and really importantly, a joy for life. So well done, the Baptist Church. So what I wanted to bring up very, very quickly, buildings stir emotion. We become emotionally connected to them. They do an awful amount of just apart from being a building. To this very day, I remember these with huge emotion and joy. Now, the other thing I just wanted to pick up, they were of their time. They were of that time. Now, the hospital is no longer. It's no longer usable as a hospital. The school has been replaced. There's a brand new school on it. Interestingly, the town hall is actually being renovated because it's a grade 2 listed. So it actually is still there. It has a function. And of course, the church, thank God, is still in use and still doing a fine job. Now, what was really interesting for me is that they all allowed socialization by congregation, specifically the church. And very, very interestingly, when I went to that very first school, I hadn't had much socialization in my first 5 years with other children of my age. So actually, I was a little bit backward when I first started school. In fact, I didn't talk much, which has obviously been rendered and corrected over the years. So I just wanted to bring up these memories for you, and really importantly, we need to socialise for our congregation. Okay, let's move it on for you. So what's the problem? What's the problem? Everyone wants to know the problem. But I want you to just draw your attention to Russell Ackoff's quote, a brilliant systems writer. A brilliant systems writer. Successful problem solving requires finding the right solution to the right problem. We fail more often because we solve the wrong problem than because we get the wrong solution to the right problem. It sounds a bit of a mouthful, but it's absolutely correct. The greatest challenge with any problem solving is everybody thinks there must be a solution. You see, and nobody wants to actually take time in defining the problem. Guy Claxton talked about this, harebrained tortoise mind. Because to be quick, to have a solution is intelligent, but to be slow, to be thoughtful, is assumed to be thick. But it's not. Okay. Just want to draw your attention to a couple of examples. This is to do with the space age and the Russians and the Americans trying to get the moon first. It was often discussed that there was a way of looking at the challenge of writing in space. Now the challenge was they couldn't get a pen to write in space. And apocryphally, it said that the Americans spent 8 years and $12 million in actually getting a pen to write in space, yet the Russians used a pencil. But there's some other things we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm not quite sure that that is as poor as we've seen, but it's very good at saying, well, what was the problem? One of my favourites is the beautiful suspension bridge in Hull, Yorkshire, England. And it was seen as the way to create far better connection between two sides of the embankment. Sadly, it's not been that way. And it's a toll bridge, which means you have to pay to go across it. And very unfortunately, it's never made any money. So it wasn't actually the correct solution, because innovation requires it has to be commercially viable. Okay, so that's a little bit about the challenge we have with problems. Now I just want to look at what a problem is. Let's unpack the term, a problem. And this is the basics of problems. This is what COVID is actually. If we unpack it, we've got to look at, well, what is a problem? We've got to get to the bottom of that a little bit better. Not all problems need solving. No. And this is interesting. Is it a problem or a challenge, or actually an opportunity? Next, a problem hierarchy. Is there a problem to hierarchies? Yes, there is. We'll talk about that very quickly. Repattern existing knowledge. Identifying challenges. We create challenges. And last but not least, is it a soft, a hard, or a wicked problem? Let's reveal some. Okay, let's think about a problem. What is a problem? How would you define it? Well, currently we're in what gets called a VUCA type environment. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. As we'll talk about in a minute, where we and the environment have become entwined. We can't get away from COVID unless we go to the moon, apparently. Now, so what is a problem? It's all of that plus. That bridge comes back into mind. A problem is you're here in one state, and you want to be over here in another state. That's your desired state. And there's a gap between the two. And the challenge is to describe the gap, not a solution, so that you then get the correct solution to be where you want to be. So there. Yeah. Now, not all problems need solving. No, they don't. Because in some instances, they just resolve themselves. I knew a local school that was having terrible trouble. Now, all sorts of things were going to be resolved or used, but actually, the parents and the children resolved it themselves. Different behaviour, different patterns of how they went about things, and everything was actually quite fine. Is it a problem or is it a challenge? Is there a difference? There is in the way you frame it. We're going to look at some examples of where people actually were looking at their problem as an opportunity, a great challenge. And it means that the solution is far, far better. Then we'll have a quick look at problem hierarchies, of course. And a problem hierarchy means that if you think your problem's operational, but it's actually at strategic level, you've been wasting your time. If you are a person who shoes horses, and you get into ways of making it quicker and better, but there's no market for horses with shoes on anymore, wrong. Okay, I want to look at this very quickly. Repattern existing knowledge. Repattern existing knowledge means not looking for a complete new answer, but taking someone else's solution and maybe using it for yourselves. And that is to adapt it. It sometimes gets called creatively swiped. So you're not reinventing the wheel. Now this is identifying challenges. Good managers are the ones who are prepared to notice something isn't working properly, and they're prepared to take up that challenge. Interestingly, we recreate challenges. This is when we become entwined with the environment. Now this all comes back to a guy called Percy Shaw. Percy Shaw in 1936 did something utterly brilliant. All those things, repatterning existing knowledge, identifying the challenge, creating that challenge, came about with this. There you go. Percy lived in Yorkshire, where the bridge was, no less. And he noticed one night, on a foggy night, because it's often in the winter, as his car headlights hit the cat's eyes, they reflected. He thought, wow, that would be brilliant. Random, completely random, but that would be brilliant if we could have lots of cats in the middle of the road. No, obviously not cats in the middle, but we could actually repattern, use that actually idea of having cat's eyes. Now, you repatterned existing knowledge because in 1927, a reflective sign came about in the United Kingdom. Hey, presto. That's what we all know now. Marvellous, absolutely brilliant. Simple as anything, but so functional. Yeah, now this is the interesting bit. Is it a soft, is it hard, or a wicked problem? Okay, so Madsen and Mitroff worked on the work by Horst Rittel on when he termed messy, wicked problems. So messy, wicked problems are made up of this. This is COVID. This is COVID. Interconnectedness. It means lots of things are actually involved. Social system, businesses, communities, everything is involved. And every time you think you've solved it, something else pops up. It's a bit like the Greek Hydra, trying to chop its heads off. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, quick. Oh, back again. Sorry. Getting too excited. Complicatedness is the next part of a wicked problem. Now, the complicatedness means there's possible approaches and plausible programs. There's lots of ways you could possibly do it, and it may end up being the best of the worst. But there's lots of different ways you could actually do it. Uncertainty. Golly gosh, yes, uncertainty. COVID is amongst uncertainty. It abounds, and it creates risks. Sometimes it creates such a risk, it's incalculable contingencies, which brings to mind Marie Curie and the risks she took with radiotherapy. We might have to duck out and actually try something that's very, very risky. Uncertainty. Ambiguity. Good Lord above. There's no single correct view. Unfortunately. There's lots of different ways you could look at it. And that's why it's ambiguous and it's very difficult. Conflict. So not only is it different ways to actually maybe you could resolve it and different ways to actually sum up what the solution, the problem is that there's going to be conflict. And there has been in the UK where people are getting very, very angry about lockdown. In the United States, we only have to talk about their way of looking at things and the conflict it's created. Societal constraints, of course, the sixth aspect of such a problem as COVID is the sad thing is its limitations in what is feasible. Our knowledge only goes so far. And so that's where we're at, good people. So let's look again. So how could we resolve this problem? How could we resolve it? Well, I'll go about it in this sort of manner, I think. The first thing is Charles Kettering. He was an American inventor and brilliant engineer. His lovely saying was, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Now, in that element is, how are you looking at it? Have you looked at this correctly? And an example for me would be the 1984 Olympics and Peter Ubroth, who was there overseeing it. He was there overseeing it, and he was brilliant. He didn't see it as a big sporting event, he saw it as a big television event, and hence everything came to pass. Okay, please value and practice pluralism, which means understanding the other guy's point of view. It means interdependency, we're all in this together. Participation, get up and doing something. Openness, be open. Do not try to close down, and continually trying to improve. Diversity, extremely needed. Cacophony incorporated is what we need right now. Lots of different people, lots of different genders, lots of different nationalities. Very quickly, what's the behaviour got to be? James Adam, John Martin and Charles Handy came up with these. These are the precepts. Be curious, forgive, be loving, and have a sense of direction. So very quickly, what do they mean? Curiosity. We've got to go about this with adopt a set to break a set. We've got to be able to think differently. All the ways we've been looking at it, think about it differently and do differently. Explore the givens, don't take it as a given. Broad picture, local detail. See the big picture, then go in and look at local detail. Then move it on to forgiveness. Value play, stand outside the mainstream. Build up, don't knock down. Make sure that people's efforts are being looked at without being too critical. Live with looseness. Have control, but don't be controlling. Love, it's already there, nurture it. Yes, people are there, nurture them. Involve others, connect and be receptive. Exactly what Percy Shaw did. He connected with something and he was receptive to it. A sense of direction, know what you really want, get the right definition. Cycle off and close late, don't go to the first answer, know when you've got to make a decision, and manage the process. Good project management. Rickard and Schoen say, be the reflective practitioner. Make sure you've learned from your lessons. Just very quickly, if there's a the way we can frame a problem could be an answer, very, very simple, or it could be we search for it, or we cultivate an answer. COVID requires us to map out stuff so we can actually see with one another what we think. Debate it. And this one's the interesting one, reperception of the challenge. Reperception, think of it differently. Suggestions to move forward, good people? This thinking it took us to get in this mess is not the same that it's going to get us out of it. The one and only Albert Einstein. We've got to change our thinking, definitely. Get like Muhammad Ali. These are the attributes of a very creative person. Ali was. Be positive, be purposeful, be playful, be persistent. The persistence is the one who's never give up. Design thinking. Empathize with user, define the problem correctly, ideate lots of different ways of looking at it, prototype it, try it out, and test it. Systems thinking. Peter Senge, God bless him. What we are looking at is wholes, not parts, patterns instead of just static situations, and also, it's understanding the subtlety of interconnectedness. We need to be doing more of that. Percy Shaw was the man. That was brilliant. That was random stimuli, and the design thinking entrepreneur went into battle with design thinking. He didn't do linear thinking, it iterated. Circular. Brilliant. That wasn't such a bad story, and the pencils actually broke and mucked up the system elsewhere. They did go on to develop a very, very good pen. So what I liked about that was the dynamic way of looking at mistakes. The poor old bridge, they're still working on it. They won't give up, empathizing with the end user and doing more and more tests and ways to see how they can get that to be financially viable. Love this. Tom Peters, thriving on chaos. He said this in 1987. To thrive amid chaos means to cope or come to grips with it. But that is too reactive an approach and misses the point. The true objective is to take the chaos as a given and learn to thrive on it. The winners of tomorrow, which is us, We'll deal proactively with chaos. We'll look at chaos per se as a source of market advantage, not as a problem to get around. Uncertainty and chaos will be market opportunities for the wise. And that's the most important thing. There is opportunity there. There is. So this is what I suggest, good people. But we must socialise via congregation. We've got to get that to do the right thing. Problem definition first, solutions eventually. Be aware, bring the background to the foreground, okay? Be aware, just like Percy Shaw was. He didn't let it go, he brought the background to the foreground. Think, say, do non-rationally, not irrationally, non-rationally. Be creative. Be true to the key values of creativity. Think systems, think networks, but people first. Reframe the problem as a challenging opportunity. Chaos is a given. Thrive on it. We've had SARS, we've had VARS. This is now COVID. Who knows what's next? We've got to actually just understand it is chaotic out there. Let's get more creative about it. And let's make sure we are doing systems thinking, design thinking, and our behaviours and our values are with creativity. And finally, one last thing. There you go. This is from the Wisdom of the Sands. It's my favourite quote about this. Anton de Saint-Exupéry. As for the future, your task is not to foresee it, but to enable it. And that's what we've got to do. We're enablers. It doesn't matter about what the future. We're going to get it wrong anyway. Each time something comes up, let's enable the future. Let's get through it. My mum wrote me this on a piece of paper before I went into an exam. And I've never forgotten it. Great advice whenever you're getting scared. Let us not look back in anger, nor forward in fear, but around us in awareness. Thank you. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elvin. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure.
Charming and engaging as usual. Yeah. We will enter into very details in the workshop tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you just had a taste of what is we will experience tomorrow in the afternoon at the workshop with Elvin. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. And see you a bit later.
Absolutely.
Now we would like to welcome Idris Goossens, the founder of PropTech Lab Belgium. In just a minute, we will be back on stage here.